My children are now 11 and 13, and I've got a bit of a point where I can come to realise that food is the foundation of a good home, along with love, of course, but food becomes the hub. And this is where everyone joins in together, and they can have the textures and flavours, and we get to talk about the day and the memories and the highlights of the day. And in amongst that, people find they have fond memories of home and the family meals. It's a great way to come together. And through food and slow food, there's the love there. And my daughter said, you know, I love wet food. You know, a friend came over and she goes, I love wet food. And we went, what do you mean by that? And she said, I just love casseroles and soup with bones and ossobuco and those sorts of things. And we came to realise that it's all the nourishment. They say, I just feel strong on it, or I feel like I digest it really easily. And so that's what we were aiming for here, is you'll realise that the power of food in a family is when they're bringing their friends home, or maybe their partner in future years, they'll say, can you make shepherd's pie? Or Dad, can you make pancakes? And that's where it really comes into its realm. So the wet food's a good thing. We'll go through baby foods, the first foods, because there's plenty of little people here. And there are commencing solids here, which is a flyer I always give out. And there's also weaning pattern for babies, which comes from the laboratory which does allergy testing. What happens with this is you'll find at about 6 months you're recommended to start solids. Some people find, oh, my baby's so hungry, I've just got to start. And you'll find your baby's like watching the toast like this, and you feel cruel not doing anything but feeding them. So, I mean, with my boy, I just had to start early, and he just loves food, and you've got to keep his blood sugar always propped up, otherwise we have a meltdown. So with that is the solid foods. There's the question of whether we should be baby-led weaning and having finger food, and other people have mashed food. And with that, I think you can try the baby-led weaning, but I've had some comments like, oh, I'm just so scared my baby's going to choke. Or I've had other people saying, oh, a lot of it lands on the floor and I'm not sure that anything's getting through. So what I say to that comment is, look, if you're not sleeping through the night, and I realised after my second child, if it's 6 months, feed your baby, and if they're waking through the night and they're not, you know, they're throwing it all on the ground, mash it up and get it into them, because we all need to get sleep. And if your mother, you know, I just walked around jet lagged with my first baby, and I realised in retrospect I should have just got the baby to sleep, fed him at night time, top him up before he goes to bed, and then everyone operates a lot better. So from that, I would say, you know, feed them no matter what. And if you find that they're just tossing it, the independence will come later. So when they're about 1 year old, or it might be 8 months, 9 months, they're getting their character, then you can give them the foods in finger shapes. Like I remember cutting rusk or kumara, you know, in long pieces so they can feed themselves, and they love that independence. There's also been a question about vegetarian babies, and that's all well and good, and I've got menu plans which we can email out. And that's Monday to Sunday, breakfast, lunch and dinner. It helps people work out what you can do. With that, vegetarians, you've got to make sure that you have grains plus legumes on the same plate. You've really got to have the protein there, protein complementing, because a baby will double in size in a month. That's a lot of tissue repair and growth and cellular reproduction, which protein is needed for. And if you've got eggs, that's even better, and dairy products, if your baby can cope with dairy products, that's good too, because then you get the vitamin A, D, E, K, and you get the B12, and you get good protein as well, because dairy plus grains equals a protein as well. There's also a question about iron, and it's not the heme iron. Heme iron is from meat, which goes straight in, it doesn't need a transporter. But with plant iron, the darker the vegetable, the better. So spinach, kale, you know, which you have to sort of cook down into a soup. Prunes are good, and if you can do, say on the broccoli and the spinach, put some balsamic vinegar on it, because that will help the uptake. Okay, uptake of iron. And also, it's a bit like the vitamin C or sour food, like a bit of lemon on spinach will help with that too. Are you able to hear me? A bit? Draw in closer if you need to. Okay, so that's the iron side of things. Some people ask me about nuts. There's peanuts, which a lot of people go, no, don't touch peanuts, and that's fine. That's actually a legume, and the nuts are actually almonds, cashews, Brazils. They're a different family altogether. But sometimes a paediatrician will say no tree nuts, in which case just eliminate those. But you can go to things like pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds, which come from totally different plants. And always check with your paediatrician, but usually those can be done. You can grind them and put them into your food, like pancakes and muffins. Okay. Some people, with introducing grains, I tend to like to go rice, millet, and then later introduce wheat and the gluten grains. Just let the gut mature a little bit, and then that will mean that that's stronger to take the wheat, because the wheat of today is quite different from the wheat in historic times. It's more highly bred for a gluten content, so the bread's really elastic. So things are changing as we go. Then, my children were larks. I don't know if you've got larks or night owls, but no matter what I did the night before, you know, cardigan on, cardigan off, top them up before bed or not, they always woke at 6 o'clock in the morning, no matter what. And the best thing you can do is help yourself a bit. Inside the cupboard door, I had the recipes for fritters, pancakes and muffins. And that means you can get up sort of a bit blary-eyed and just whisk it together. The good thing I'm going to tell you about today is cook cakes with oil. Cook cakes with oil, because then you don't have to cream, butter and sugar. You just pour in the oil, pour in the sugar, pour in the egg, the flour, and you just mix it and throw it in the oven. It's quick as anything. It's more nutritious, and you don't have to cream the butter and sugar. Sometimes I will go, oh, this looks a bit wet. The mix looks a bit wet, and therefore I will add another tablespoon of flour and put it in. So, how are you going there? You all right? You can watch it on air later if you wish. So, I always go by the hunter-gatherer approach. So the hunter-gatherer goes through the bush and picks berries and eats them on the way, and they're sour. He makes his own food. He has lots and lots of vegetables. And in the food pyramid here, we have all the vegetables at the bottom. So it's meant to be 80% veggies and palm-sized protein. And what happens here, I can email the food pyramid to you as well. With vegetables, you need to have lots of colours there too. So, you know, blanched broccoli salad with red onion and olives and those sorts of things. Just start introducing foods, because it keeps the interest with the children there. And, yep. So, what happens with that is the hunter-gatherer will also rotate his food. And so we're not going bread, cheese, tomato, pizza, cheese, tomato, spaghetti, cheese, tomato, which a lot of Kiwis do. I just can't believe the cans and cans and cans of tomato. So we need to sort of break that up a bit and go kumara, coleslaw, you know, or I cook with wine a lot, half wine, half water, which the wine will cut through the meat and the fat kind of thing and give you that astringent contrast. And the alcohol all cooks off. And Italian babies, my children are half Italian, they are fine. There's no alcohol in there at the end. It's all boiled off. So, but it's a beautiful soft soup. If you can think of leek, carrot, chicken, you know, parsley, all of those sorts of things with half white wine, half water, it's beautiful. You know, it's a really subtle flavour and much easier than tomatoes all the time. And people say, well, tomatoes are good for you in moderation, you know, but a whole can, you're eating 8 tomatoes plus the juice, you know, gets too much. I tend to buy jars of tomatoes, and I can turn the lid on and off, and I'll just put in about that much, especially when you're cooking with mince, because it gets greyer and greyer and greyer, so you have to add tomatoes to give it a bit of colour, otherwise no one will eat it. Okay, then I'm all for sour foods too. Half the time, this is the tongue. And we've got sweet, salty, sour and bitter, and we only have sweet and salty in the in today's world. Hardly ever do we have sour. But what happens is the English used to have grapefruit, lemon squeezed in water, apple cider vinegar and water, which is I do every morning. And then pickled daikon, umeboshi plums, and the French and the Americans will have salad first. This makes hydrochloric acid turn on, the bile flows out of the liver and gallbladder, and we shouldn't have cholesterol and gallstones like we do. It's shocking. So we need to have sour food to squirt all that out of the liver and decongest it, and make the pancreas squirt out some pancreatic enzymes, so all of this breaks down. And when you get to the small intestine, you haven't got a sore stomach with bloating and wind and cramps. You've got nicely broken down particles of food in which your small intestine can grab the calcium, magnesium, iron, vitamin C. All of that gets picked up. A lot of people say to me, Angie, I don't want to take supplements. I just want to get it through my diet. And I say, that's fine. If you do the food pyramid and eat sour foods before meals, you can do it. But, you know, you can't just go bread, cheese, tomato, spaghetti, cheese, tomato. You know, you just got to move it up a bit more to coleslaw and soups and other things. Parsley, I cook parsley into everything and my kids can't pick it out. So grow a big bush of parsley. Having that alkaline thing, you know, doing that sour food makes your body more alkaline, and that's the optimum for cellular biochemistry, so it makes your body be able to work properly and with plenty of water as well, and then the cells can do the job they're meant to do and use the nutrients from the food. Planning a menu is always good, and those who want a menu sent to them, it's a Word document which you can alter to how you want. But it just takes the load off your shoulders if you know what you're doing. When I had my second child, someone said at Play Centre, so long as you know what you're doing for dinner, you're right. And she was so true. Like, if you've got something thawing out and you know in your mind what you're doing, I always have udon noodles up my sleeve in case I get in late. That's really good. You know, it really helps. I always cook double and freeze half, or I might make a batter mix. And the batter mix lasts 3 days in the fridge. And the French like that. They say the longer it stays in the fridge, the better. So who would mind having blueberry pancakes with sliced banana for 3 days in a row? I wouldn't, you know. And I can put eggs, LSA, milk of your choice, flour of your choice, so you can build it to however you want it to be, you know. But blueberry pancakes with sliced banana is brilliant. Often when I cook dinner and you've got all the gear out, you're chopping onions and celery and all that, put out another pot, and while you're doing that casserole, you've got a soup on the back burner, and that works really well because it's my first reaction. If my husband goes away, I put a soup on straight away because I know I'll get caught short somewhere along the way. So if I'm late from soccer practice or something, I can just get in and heat the soup up, and I know I'm all good. Yeah. In the modern world, I do have to admit, you know, if you're going to do this hunter-gatherer thing, we do have to make our own food because commercially it's not that easy, you know. So just their profit margins and them taking cheaper options on what they put in the food. Like, you'll get a sandwich and it's got that much filling in it, and then it's just white bread, you know. So I do have a rice cooker, a slow cooker, and I do have a bread maker. And the bread maker means my kids don't grow up on soy flour and genetically modified soy flour, and it's all bleached and you've got all these preservatives so it never goes mouldy. It should be duck bread the next day, you know, back in the old days. So that's how it should be. And along with this is to lead by example. So, you know, bring the high chair up to the table and have family meals and sit down and say, try this and try that, and get people describing the food they eat, because for a 7 and 8 year old child, they're learning all the descriptive words and their vocabulary changes. So their command of the English language by eating with you expands. And I have to say, I went to boarding school and I missed out on a whole lot of general knowledge because I was at boarding school and you didn't have that family interaction of general knowledge and news and that sort of thing. So that's another reason for coming. In nanny programs, I've seen them say, Tommy, sit down and eat your dinner. You know, have you heard that on the nanny programs? You know, sit down and eat your dinner, and the mother's racing around the kitchen and the child's just mimicking that. And so you've got to think, right, I've got to sit down too. focus, you know. So that often helps if you do that. And then praise them. Oh, what a good boy, what a good girl, you ate that and you ate that. Because children love to be praised. So catch them doing it good and they'll do it again for you. The other thing I've done is sat down with my children, pull out a piece of A4 and go, what do you like, what do you like? And they'll go, I like Vegemite, I like Marmite, okay. And then I like raw carrot, I like cooked carrot. I like Thai beef salad, I like shepherd's pie. You know, but they love to be heard. And if you put that on the fridge, and then it doesn't mean you have to pander to them all the time, but so long as you've heard them, you get a better compliance and you'll start doing things a little bit more their way. And yeah, it just takes time to sometimes listen, you know. Sometimes my children say, I've got a sore ankle, and they'll do it for a couple of days and then I realize, oh, you've got a sore ankle. So it's kind of like that. I like raw carrot. I don't like it cooked. Oh, okay, that's fine. Why don't I do that, you know? So do those kind of things. And of course, along with all these veggies, we like to do it organically. Why? Well, of course, they haven't got the pesticides or the sprays on it, so that's a good thing. And then they're growing in better soils, so the nutrient content is much higher, like the iron is higher, the magnesium is higher, so that's always good. We've got in your booklets the dirty dozen, so if organic food gets a bit expensive, and I always say out of season, out of reason, try and eat within the season so it's cheaper. But look at the dirty dozen, because they're the ones like celery and apples and pears that are highly sprayed, and it's worth buying those organically. And I always buy carrots organically because they taste like carrots. If you buy a regular carrot, it doesn't taste of anything. And tomatoes don't taste of anything, you know, so it's best to do that. And grow a veggie garden and get the bokashi bucket or the worm farm going, you know, that's always good because then you've got your scraps going to a good purpose. While we're talking about kitchens and things, I thought I'd talk about some other sins and the sinners in the kitchen, and they're in your booklets, is the microwaves, and I'll show you this. They did a study of watering 2 plants with microwaved water, and by day 9 it's totally dead, the one which has been watered with microwaved water. And this is a scientific study, and so it was filtered water, then one was boiled and one was brought to boiling temperature in the microwave, and there we have it. And there's interesting articles about that and links that you can follow about the safety of microwaves. So tape it shut or turn it into a letterbox or get rid of it. Some people can't believe it, but it doesn't take long to put something in a pot with a little bit of water and turn it on and heat it up normally, and that does the same trick. They've done comfrey leaves where you can chemically identify it, microwave it, and you just can't identify it at all. All the chemical structure, those hexagonal things, are all gone. So I leave them well alone. The other thing is anything that says sugar-free on it, steer clear, you know. That's always got aspartame in it and artificial sweeteners, and they're not great at all. I can tell you lots about that. And MSG flavour enhancers, and they're in lots of crackers. You always got to go to home brand corn chips just to get them plain. You know, the minute they get a little bit of flavour, in goes the artificial sweet, what are they called? The flavour enhancers. And it's not just MSG, that's 621, there's 631, 637, and they've all got unhappy faces. This is the book, it's always interesting, it's about $23, they sell it at Harvest, and you can look up the numbers and it tells you whether it's got a happy face or a sad face. Well worth knowing. So, after the getting rid of the sinners, now we're going to talk about essential fatty acids. And a lot of people haven't grasped this, but on the food pyramid, along with vegetables, is oil, essential fatty acids. And we need lots of it because it's the bilipid membrane of every cell. And children with recurrent ear infections have been found to have really low essential fatty acids. Well, people with acne and eczema, you've got the bad fats going in, and because the cells would normally take up, in preference, they're good oils, but if they haven't got them available, they'll take up the harder oils which clog pores and do things like that. So what we want to do here is make sure that it's good oil. It's cold pressed, it's in a dark glass bottle, and it's kept in a dark cupboard, because heat, light and oxygen make it go rancid. And if you're putting in rancid oil, that's bad. So no oil in plastic clear bottles. And what I tend to do is drizzle olive oil on everything. Pasta, bread, broccoli, it just goes over everything. And you can make a loaf of bread in the bread maker, chop it up and give it to kids with a big bowl of olive oil, and the whole netball team devours it. So it's really great to do that. Okay, then we have, just get rid of the margarine. It's a trans fatty acid. And in the biscuits, they're doing shortcuts, economic shortcuts like hydrogenated vegetable fat. And vegetable fat, people see vegetable and think it's good, but it's heated, twisted, and hydrogen ions added to it. So what we want to do there is go for spreads like almond butter, olive oil, avocado, and pesto and things like that. Hunt together. Can you make it in the bush? Yes. Can you make margarine in the bush? No, don't do it, all right? It's grey, they dye it yellow, fruit flies won't eat it. If you put it out on the pavement, it won't even roll away and melt. It'll just stay there. So don't do margarine. Even if they say, oh, can I have this type or that type? I won't say brands. No, they're using the cheapest oil with about 20% of the so-called good oil. And check that it's cold pressed oil, not cold filtered oil, because things like rice bran oil, you think, oh, how great, but in actual fact they use high temperatures and solvents to get rid of that. So what do you do for cakes? Grapeseed oil, cold pressed sunflower oil, cold pressed safflower oil is all fine, and keep it in glass is best, in a cold dark cupboard. Good. All right. Now I'd just like to say we're also, with all these beautiful vegetables and things, we're lucky to have the All Good bananas, which are fair trade, and they use small farms and they use organic fertilisers, so you know the nutrients in the bananas make a nutritious snack, manganese, potassium and vitamin C, so that's really good. I've got recipes online, and I'd like to say thank you to Nature Baby and All Good Bananas for bringing this event together and bringing together inquiring minds of parents and caregivers who want to optimise their family health through nutrition. Good on you all. Thank you.